cases that result in the loss of human life. Sometimes these are carried out by a single individual and sometimes by a group of people. In many cases, the suspects manage to evade the law. Among these stories, there are mysterious incidents that not only confuse investigators, but also attract public attention. One such phenomenon involves the spirits of victims seeking justice. It is said that these spirits are able to narrate in detail the chronology of the events that led to their deaths. One of the most famous stories is called the Greenbrier Ghost. The victim was named Elva Zona Heister. It is called the Greenbrier Ghost because the incident occurred in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, United States. In 1896, Zona Heister fell in love with a handsome blacksmith named Erasmus Stribling Trout Shue. Shue was known for his caring and attentive nature, often bringing Zona fresh and beautiful flowers. However, their relationship was not approved by Zona's mother, Mary J. Heister. The reason for Mary's disapproval is not entirely clear. Some neighbors speculated that Mary wanted Zona to marry someone richer and more respectable. Or perhaps Mary was displeased with Shue's use of the name Edward, which he used when he first introduced himself, as it was not his real name. Despite her mother's opposition, Zona was deeply infatuated with Trout and decided to marry without her mother's blessing. At the wedding, Zona wore a dark red wedding dress. Strangely, a few months later, Zona was found dead under mysterious circumstances on January 23, 1897. Shue appeared to be deeply grieving over his wife's death and wept continuously. According to reports from the Monroe Watchman, a local newspaper, on the morning before Zona's death, Shue left his home and blacksmith shop to visit one of his clients. After some time, Shue sent a boy to his house to ask Zona if she wanted to give him a message. Shue still had to continue his work for a long time. Upon arriving at the house, the messenger boy was shocked to find Zona lying lifeless on the floor. Another report from the Greenbrier Independent revealed that in preparation for the funeral, Shue lovingly dressed Zona in her wedding dress. When Dr. Knapp, a doctor who arrived later, wanted to conduct a thorough examination, Shue refused and claimed that the examination would not bring Zona back to life. During the preparation, Shue was seen wearing a large shawl that was folded several times and tied with a ribbon under Zona's chin. Zona's funeral was finally held on January 24, 1897, at the Soul Chapel Methodist Cemetery. Zona's death, based on the initial investigation, was suspected to be caused by a fall from the stairs, as her body was found not far from the stairs. A few days later, the people of Greenbrier were shocked to hear that Zona's mother, Mary, claimed to have been visited by her daughter's ghost. Mary told everyone that the ghost had revealed the truth about her death. Mary even went to the prosecutor, John Alfred Preston, to tell him what she'd heard. Mary demanded that Preston reopen the case. Preston thought Mary was just upset and grieving, but to calm her down, he sent someone to talk to Dr. Knapp, the doctor who examined Zona's body. He was stunned to find out that Dr. Knapp hadn't even done an autopsy. When Preston's assistant started talking to other people, more and more people started believing Mary's story about Zona being murdered. Preston remembered what Zona's ghost had told her mom. 2 days before she died, Shu had come home late and really angry because there was no meat for dinner. The next night, he strangled her. Preston shivered. He had to reopen the case. They dug up Zona's body and did an autopsy. It turned out that her neck was broken and her throat was crushed, just like the ghost said. Dr. Knapp realized that Shu had covered her neck with a big shawl to hide the marks. Shu was eventually arrested. During his incarceration, his true nature was revealed. He had been married at least twice before. His first marriage ended in divorce due to severe and repeated domestic violence. His wife could no longer endure the constant abuse and sought a divorce. His second wife died under mysterious circumstances just a year into their marriage, eerily similar to Zona's fate. According to the Greenbrier Independent, when interviewed, Shu was confident of his acquittal, believing the evidence against him to be insufficient. On June 22, 1897, Shu's trial began. His defense attorney worked tirelessly to dismiss the charges brought by prosecutor Preston, as the entire case hinged on Mary's claim of being visited by her daughter's ghost, a notion that seemed absurd in a court of law. However, Mary's statements remained remarkably consistent. In the end, Shu was found guilty on July 11, 1897. After only 3 years of imprisonment in West Virginia, Shu was suddenly found dead on March 13, 1900. Medical examiners attributed his death to an epidemic disease, and he was buried in an unmarked grave in a local cemetery. The Greenbrier ghost made headlines in its time due to the ghost of Zona's exceptionally detailed account of the moments leading up to her death. The story gained such widespread notoriety that the state of West Virginia erected a historical marker that reads, "Interred in nearby cemetery is Zona Heaster Shu." Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother to describe how she was killed by her husband Edward. Autopsy on the exhumed body verified the apparition's account. Edward, found guilty of murder, was sentenced to the state prison, only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped to convict a murderer.